Hi, Christine Faulkner with Cava and Faulkner, Elk Grove and Sacramento's Living Trust and Estate Lawyer. Thanks for tuning in to another edition of the Daily with Christine. Today we're going to talk about LLCs and membership interest and operating agreements. So stay tuned to the end because you're going to learn, number one, how does a person who's part of an LLC, what is their ownership interest? And number two, what is an operating agreement? Some key provisions you might want to consider when drafting this agreement. So let's get started. How does a person describe their ownership interest in an LLC? So unlike a corporation, where the ownership interest is in the shares of the corporation, so many times people create an S corporation, and my dog sees something interesting. Many times when people create an S corporation, their ownership interest is actually reflected in their share ownership. So they may own 100% of the shares that are issued, which means that they are 100% owner. If they own 50% of the shares and the other 50% are owned by someone else, they're a 50% owner in the business. So it's all based upon the number of shares that you own. Unlike share ownership, when you have an LLC, you don't issue shares. You have what's called a membership interest. And so if it's just you starting the LLC, then it is called a single member LLC. If there are multiple members, it is a multiple member LLC. And your respective ownership interest will be described in the operating agreement. Maybe you're a third owner and there are two more owners who also own a third. Maybe there are 5 owners who have disparate ownership interests. Well, that is going to be described in the operating agreement. What percentage of the ownership interest do you have as a member? Also, you will, so number one, that is how your ownership interest is described in an LLC. What is your percentage of the membership interest? Number two, you have an operating agreement. And one of the things in your operating agreement you will discuss is this a member managed LLC or is this a manager managed LLC? Well, what the heck does that mean? That means that maybe you as the member are actually managing the business, or maybe you are not. You started the business, but someone else is going to be running it. So let's say, for example, you buy a restaurant, but you are a CPA. You have your own CPA business, but you purchase a restaurant and you are not going to be running it, but you are the owner. So that would be a manager managed LLC, right? You are the owner, but someone else is going to be entrusted with managing the operation. So crucial distinctions when it comes to the operating agreement. And of course, in that operating agreement, you're going to lay out if you are running the business yourself or you and others, who are those people who are entrusted with making managerial decisions. If it is a manager managed LLC, you're going to be naming the managers and the scope of their managerial authority within the operating agreement. One of the things that I talk to people about oftentimes in my estate planning practice is what happens to their business if they become disabled or pass away. Many times people have no idea because they've gone on to LegalZoom, just kind of used a template document, downloaded and used what they had, and they don't really even have any idea what their operating agreement says with respect to much of what I've already discussed. So you should give some consideration to what would happen to your business if you became incapacitated. Who would you want to take over? You'd probably want to include provisions outlining what happens if you become incapacitated. What would happen if you got COVID? Would your business be able to continue? If you outlined in your operating agreement who you would expect to step in, if maybe that is somebody with a power of attorney, maybe that's a specific person who would be entrusted to be able to do that, and you can outline the mechanics of how they could take over during your incapacity. Also, what happens if you pass away? Does your business, is it going to be able to continue after you are gone? What are the mechanics of that? How does that look? And especially if you have a really successful going concern and this is a way that you want to, you want it to continue. You want your family and your loved ones to be able to benefit from your successful business. Outlining those factors would be important. And if you have a partner or if you have several other members who are co-owners, do they have the right of first refusal to buy your membership interest? So imagine you have two people, let's take a partnership or a law practice like mine. Well, I'm in business with my husband, but that's not a great example. But you have a law practice where you have a law partner and, you both went into partnership together because you are great. You work well together. You complement one another in terms of your strengths and weaknesses, and one of them passes away. Using a professional practice is not a great example because, well, it's just not. But so forget about it being a legal practice, just two partners. And one partner passes away, they work great together, and all of a sudden now, potentially you as the surviving partner find that you're in business now with your deceased partner's spouse. Is that what you really envisioned? So maybe you want to include some, hey, here's Odie hanging out in the backyard with me. Maybe you want to include in your operating agreement that the other partners have the right of first refusal. The other members in your LLC have the first right to buy up your interest before ever being forced to go into business with a spouse or the kids of one of the members. An important provision to look at. And also looking at what your your operating agreement says about your ability to transfer shares or alienate shares. Can you just sell your share of the LLC, your membership interest in the LLC, to anybody off the street? Do you have to get the other members' approval? Again, that right of first refusal, you have to maybe offer your membership interest to them first and they have to decline. And what period of time does all of that take place? And are you able to transfer your interest into a trust that you may create after the LLC is created? So complicated stuff, probably more things to think about than you might have been aware of on the surface. All of these things have been, of course, tested in the legal world, and that's why I bring them to your attention. Like I said, most people, when they're creating an LLC, they don't think about the depth of all of this kind of decision making, but it can have a real impact on both you, your other members, if you're not a single member LLC, how you're able to conduct business going forward, as well as transfer your interest in your business and how that all happens. So I hope you enjoyed the video. A little insight into just a few of the considerations you might want to think about when creating and starting your business entity, your LLC. I hope you found this information useful. Subscribe to our channel if you like our content, like our videos, and definitely tell us what else you'd like to hear about, and I'd be happy to create more content surrounding that. Take care. Have a great day. Thanks for tuning in to The Daily with Christine, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.